Welcome back to Going Walkabout. About a year ago, I did a video on 5 things I wish I knew before I retired. And interestingly enough, I've been retired almost 3 years now. And so I've actually have 5 more things I wish I knew before I retired. And I thought, the last one seemed pretty helpful to folks. Hopefully this will be the same. And whether you're getting ready for retirement or you're already retired, hopefully these will be things that will be helpful going through that process. With that said, these are 5 totally different things from the previous video. So the previous video is right here. You can have a look at it. Failing that, we'll start with the 5 new things that I've learned since I retired. And before I get started, I'm Susan Steele, and with my husband of 40 years, Carl Steele, we sold everything 3 years ago and have been traveling for the last 3 years. So I started my retirement jumping right into traveling full time. So there's been a lot of learnings in that process. With that said, you may have done the same thing I did, where I was so invested in my job that leading up to retirement, I literally did no research, read no books, didn't look at any YouTube channels, didn't do anything to prepare for retirement, which could have been a pretty big mistake. Thankfully, my husband had retired before me, and he had a feeling that I'd go through some different things, so he was really good about prepping me in certain ways, or guiding me or nudging me in certain ways, so that the retirement process wasn't as difficult as it could have been. Okay, these are in no particular order, as I said. Number 1, I've got how important it is to establish a routine. And when we're working, our routine is to get up, get ready, and go to work. When you don't have that in front of you, you do have to set up your own routine, and it's pretty critical to do that. It gives you a framework for the day, and I have found that that's been incredibly helpful, especially because I carry that routine regardless of what country we're in. And everybody's routine is different. I will describe mine to you, but again, you may have something that's completely different. It might be more sedentary, it might be a little bit more exercise, whatever. For my routine, coffee in the morning, certainly conversation with my husband for at least an hour or so. We've done that all 40 years of our marriage. And then I usually do some form of exercise, whether it's walking for 2 miles one day and then yoga, or doing a longer walk. During those walks, I've been really into either podcasts or the books on tape, and I can tell you that I've enjoyed so much listening to those. But it's made for a really nice routine, so whether I'm in France or Sardinia, I stick to that routine of exercise in the morning, and it creates endorphins and it creates a really positive day. So things I wish I knew before I retired is how critical creating that daily routine is, and then sticking to it. Making sure that you're able to do that most days is pretty important, and it kind of gives you that framework to set up the rest of the day, the rest of the week, and the rest of the month. So at number 2, we have stuff will become less important. So declutter early and ruthlessly. And this is a tough one. It's tough for me, it's tough for everybody. When we first sold our home, we sold everything with it, and we put a few things into storage units. And initially we had 2 storage units. And within a year, after traveling, we got back and we said, it seems crazy having 2 storage units. We should try to consolidate to 1, which we did. Now, a lot of the stuff in storage was my clothing. I had 10 huge trunks of clothing. A lot of it work clothing, by the way. And what happened after year 2 of traveling and not using that clothing is I said, I've got to clean this out. It just feels like such a weight on my soul. And ergo, I literally got rid of 8 of those huge trunks of clothing. It felt so much better to get rid of it. And I have no need for it. There's so many things that when you're retired, you just have no need for anymore, especially work clothing. So that was important. The other thing that we did is a lot of times we come back to where our storage unit is, which is in the desert, around Christmas time. And so we go through our storage unit and do a decluttering and then take it over to the local charity And then that way people can use those things for their holiday season and their Christmas, and hopefully it's a win-win situation. But I can tell you that it's really worth being ruthless about decluttering your life. You feel so much less weight and oppressiveness once you get rid of things. The more you can declutter things from your life, I believe in retirement, it makes you feel so much better. So that's one of the things I wish somebody would have really impressed upon me when I was retiring, that you're not going to need those work clothes, so get rid of all those suits instead of me paying $150 for a storage unit to store a bunch of clothes I'd never wear. Okay, number 3, this one's going to sound kind of funny, YouTube. Before I retired, I was not a YouTube person. I never watched YouTube. Now my husband was. He was on it all the time, and I could not figure out what the heck he saw in this YouTube thing, because I was busy traveling for work and making speeches and doing things. Well, I will tell you that if you're not a big YouTube person, prior to going into retirement, it is a great thing to use, because there are so many helpful videos out there from people who help you prepare for retirement. So that's just one thing. I mean, and that's great. Had I been a YouTube person, I could have listened to other people give some great advice on getting ready for retirement. The next thing that's really cool about YouTube is it's like this enormous encyclopedia that you can take with you wherever you go in the world. You can learn how to cook something like a chicken curry dish. You can learn the geography of a place, the history of a place. YouTube opens up so much to be able to learn from, and I really didn't have a clue as to how extensive and helpful it could be. But certainly one of the things I wish I knew before I retired is that YouTube would have been a great tool to leverage to really prepare me better for retirement. And I think it's wonderful to be able to share other people's experiences, what they go through, and then hopefully that saves you from maybe making a little bit of a snuffle along the way, and it makes your retirement that much easier and that much better. So I'm a big advocate of YouTube, not just because I have a channel on it, but because I think it's one of the best places to find great advice. Okay, number 4, we have get out of your comfort zone and start before you retire to try new things, new hobbies. And I did put something about comfort zone in the last video, but I'm going to take it one step further this time now that I've been retired. I wish I knew how long it would take to learn something new. So I said, I'm going to do these hobbies when I retire. I'm going to learn Spanish. I'm going to learn yoga. I'm going to learn how to edit videos. You name it, right? All I can tell you is that it takes so much longer than I would have ever dreamed of to be even satisfactory at these things. I've been doing Spanish now for, I don't know, 1,600 days straight. I'm not in any way fluent. It's going to take a lot longer. It's hard to teach old dogs new tricks. I mean, I've done the studies on it, and it's hard to rewire your brain when you get to a certain age. It's still really important to do, but it's not easy to do. So what I wish I knew before I retired is that it's really important to find those hobbies and to start them before you retire. Don't save them for, well, when I retire, I'm going to go fishing, or I'm going to learn how to bowl, or start now. Get out of your comfort zone. I know it's hard, you know, especially it's hard not to do something well. It always feels uncomfortable not to be good at something. So start now and get a head start on it before you officially retire. Okay, number 5 is another one I did mention, albeit a little lightly, in the last video, but this one I'm going to really try to drive the point home because now I've lived it. I mentioned that if you are going to travel in retirement, that you do it as soon as possible. And I looked up a statistic that exemplifies this, and basically that when men retire, they figure they have about 17 years until they pass away. So that's like if they retire at 65, that's until they're 82. For a woman, she's got 20 years, so 65 to 85. And I can tell you, attest to the fact that literally each year you do feel yourself aging as you get to a certain age. I was in Washington, D.C., and I got a cab driver. It was a lovely guy. And we were chatting, and he said, we're talking about aging and kids and this and that. And he said, well, what people don't seem to understand is how quickly we age as we get older. And he goes, think of it this way. He goes, when you see a baby, he goes, think of how much that baby changes from being born to 1-year-old, and then a 1-year-old to a 2-year-old, and so on and so forth. And he said, so what's happening to us as we get older is it's that same aging process. And all of us women try to do a good job at hiding that aging process, as do many men. But the point is that we're aging just as fast. It's all happening, whether it's internal or external, that aging is happening pretty quickly. So it's important that when you retire, that if you have plans to travel, do it right away. If that's a big part of your bucket list or your wish list, then you should get out and do those things. We've been going nonstop for almost 3 years, but we had to take a break and come back here to the desert for 4 months because we had a lot of medical things that we had to take care of that would preclude us being able to travel more. So fortunately, knock on wood, those things have gone well, and we will be back to traveling pretty shortly here. But as you get older, you can't ignore those types of things. You have to take care of them. I can't stress enough how important it is to travel in the earlier days and stages of your retirement. And that's one thing, again, I was lucky that my husband got us out right away, but I wish I knew how important that was. So I hope these tips have been helpful. Like I said, I certainly found it helpful when I watched other people's videos. I've had comments on the past one I did. Please leave your comments in the message below, in the comments below, and let me know, are there other things that you wish you knew before you retired that you found out? Because people love it when people share things like that. But I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's helpful. If you've enjoyed the video, a thumbs up really helps a lot. Comments really help a lot. And hey, if you like all of that, then subscribe, because we're going to be doing a lot more traveling coming here shortly. So thanks so much, and cheers for now.